Okay, so you can download this file from the classroom, slightly more complicated network, only a little bit. We've got 3 end devices here, 1, 2, 3, and we've got a computer here as well, which I'm saying is going to be acting as a web server. So if, I've got nothing special set up, you can see the IP addresses are all just set as 5, 10, 15 and 20 going into a switch. So let's just run this. If I click on this computer here, it's actually got a special piece of software running called a web server. So if I click on the web server, we can see that it's running. So that means that if I just close that window now, let's just go to this machine here. So on this machine, I've actually got a web browser, and I've installed the web browser through the software installation option. Okay, so what I can do then is, if I go back to the home screen, just hide that information, there we go, and load up my web browser. So it's just got a fake sort of web browser built into it. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm just going to slow this simulation speed down to like 1%. And there's a good reason for that. In fact, actually, what I'll do is I'll run it at 100% speed first. So if I type in the IP address of where my web server is, 10.0.0.5 there. So I'll just type in the IP address in and press enter. You might have seen the green line flash a few times. It says here, Filius web server, welcome at Filius. This page has been delivered as a default page. Feel free to add your own contents. And so it's displaying the contents of what's on this web server. So we've actually got the client server relationship here. This is acting as the client and this is the server. Now click on the server and it will show me the hypertext transfer protocol and what actually happens, what actually it sends back. And so let's close that off there. So let's just go back to that. There's the web server there. And okay, so what's actually happened there? So what we can do, if we close that and right click here, we can actually see the data exchange. Now, this is showing us a little bit more than we've seen in the past. So in the first instance, then this machine didn't know where to find 10.0.0.5 because remember, on a local area network, it wants to make use of its MAC address. So it used the ARP protocol to find the MAC address for the computer 10.0.0.5. Then it had a response and found it. And then what it did is it initiated a TCP connection. We can see that here where it's trying to synchronize, and then we get a acknowledgement back, synchronize, sequence, and acknowledge, and then we get another acknowledgement back there. At that point, once we've got a TCP connection established at the transport layer, if you like, of the OSI model, we can then use the application layer protocol HTTP, and it uses GET. And it gives it the IP address. It says, get me the website that you find at 10.0.0.5. And so what happens here is it makes use of TCP to make this happen. And then it then actually transfers across in small chunks the website to the computer. So we can see, let me pick one with the picture. If we have a look in here, it's got some details about what's being used at the different layers. So we've got sort of like the network layer, the internet layer, transport layer, and then application layer. And we can see that it's got some details about getting the picture. So, and you can see there's actually quite a lot that happens. So here is actually the part of the image being transferred across. This is the actual sort of like data, if you like, for that makes up the picture. And then we've got the acknowledgements that are happening to say it's that it's actually been received. And then at the end, the TCP connection is closed. So we can see that we've got sort of like the finish and acknowledge that it's finished, and then that's it. So we can see the whole sort of exchange using the different layers of the OSI model between the sort of like the bottom layers all the way up to the top layers. Okay, so it's really useful, this part of the of Filius. Right, so I'm going to slow it down back down to 1%. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it, and I'm just going to reopen it again. So So I'll make sure I've got a completely blank one. So there it is. Okay, and then I'm going to play it again. Now this time it's starting on 1%. So I'm going to go to this, and I'm going to go to web browser. And I'm going to type in the IP address again, 10.0.0.5. And this time what I'm going to do is, it's going to happen really slowly, of course. So I'm actually going to go back to the command line and use the command called netstat. And that shows the status of all the connections for this particular machine. Now we can see it's doing something really slowly here. So it currently says state established. And if I run it again now, we can see at the moment it's waiting for something to happen, waiting for something to respond. We can see it's using port 80 of the web server machine, and then it's using port 33131 of this machine.